because I want to join the army. I want to join Mossad. I want to go back in Iran and kill all the Ayatollahs. That's why I wanted to be military ready.
Okay.
All right, cool. Ready? Bro, let's do it with this angle. With this angle, yeah?
Whatever angle you want.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. So, I'm here with the only man that is speaking about what is happening in Iran. Why is the BBC silent? Why is Keir Starmer silent? He's the one that's raising the Iranian flag all around. So thank you for that. Thanks for being our voice. Huh? No, I know. It's the truth though. But why do you support Iranian people? And why do you think the government here doesn't, they speak about Palestine, but they don't speak about Iranian people that are dying?
Well, I'd say the BBC are silent because the BBC played their part in supporting the implementation of the Ayatollah. So it's pretty embarrassing. The West were part of bringing him in and getting the Shah. So I think it's embarrassing for them.
Yeah.
The other thing, if there was 4 million Iranians in this country, then our politicians would be talking about it. But there's not. There's 4 or 5 million Muslims who would be on the side of the Ayatollah and against the side of freedom.
Yeah.
So they're not doing what's right or wrong. Whereas our politicians should be standing on the right side of history and speaking up for the right side and fighting for the freedom of the people. But they're not, because they're more interested in not. When you think about it, our politicians allowed a generation of British daughters to be raped because they didn't want to upset that vote. Yeah? So they don't care about women in Iran getting killed or Iranian men getting butchered by the Islamic regime. They don't care. They will sacrifice all that. All they care about is power. So that's why the Labour government is silent. It's why where are all the celebrities? All the celebrities that are putting that Palestinian flags up. Where are you? Where are all of them?
Exactly.
And again, they don't know what to do because they're caught in this situation where the people are uprising against an Islamic supremacist idea that's been enslaving them for 47 years. And most of these people are always on the side of the Islamic supremacist idea. So they're stuck. Whereas they shouldn't be stuck because they should just be on the side of freedom. And I don't understand with the Marxists. With the Marxists, it's always the oppressor versus the oppressed. Well, who do you think's being oppressed? It's like, what's going on?
Exactly. One last question. Do you think the British government should get involved in this? Because the Americans and the Israelis, so far, they haven't done anything, and they're starting to kill people. They shut down the internet. So do you think there needs to be strike on strategic targets for IRGC? And do you think...
I think a strike. I think that the problem is at the minute that America first, whether it people say Britain first, is against foreign intervention. That's what Donald Trump was really voted in on, sort of on that. But it's in not just the Iranian people's interest, it's in Western civilization's interest, it's in the world's interest, it's in British interest for the Ayatollah and the Islamic regime to fall. They're the biggest funder, state-sponsored funders of terrorism around the globe. October 7th wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the Ayatollah in charge of Iran. So if you look at the army of Hamas, they're shit, really, just putting it bluntly, in comparison to Hezbollah. Because Hezbollah has proper training, proper funding, proper access to the world, and the world's funding to train an Islamic jihadist army. So any power or any attack on him or weakening of the sponsorship of terrorism worldwide is a benefit to all of us in Britain, to everyone. So not just on the side of freedom, it's what's right for the world. So get rid of it.
So exactly, get rid of
but I don't think most people would be against boots on the ground. I don't want to see British. I don't want to see British military on the ground risking their lives in any other country.
Definitely not. The experience we had with Iraq and Afghanistan shouldn't be repeated. That's why I'm saying the ground war needs to be won by the people with just this airstrike of strategic.
And there's never been a time when Iran's this weak. There's never been a time. Not Iran. Sorry, I keep putting that. When the Islamic Republic of Iran, when the Islamic regime of Iran has been this week, not Iran. There's never been a time when they've been this weak. They're this weak because they've been obliterated by Israel. Well done, Israel. They've been obliterated, and I think it's time for Donald Trump to step in and just finish them. Get it over that line.
Exactly. I hope there's strikes today, actually. Because Islamic Republic destabilized the Middle East, and by destabilizing the Middle East, they destabilize the West. So it's in the world's interest that the Islamic Republic of Iran goes. Call me, man. Thank you, bro.
Always looks good, doesn't it?
Thank you.
In a provocative interview, Tommy Robinson, the controversial figure known for his far-right views, voiced his unwavering stance against the Iranian regime, criticized Western political leaders for their silence on the plight of the Iranian people, and called for military intervention in Iran. The conversation begins with Robinson questioning why mainstream media outlets like the BBC and public figures such as Keith Thomas remain silent about the atrocities taking place in Iran. Robinson, known for his sharp criticism of Islamic extremism, pointed out that while Western leaders speak passionately about Palestine, they have remained eerily quiet on the oppression of the Iranian people. His rhetoric was aimed directly at politicians and the media, accusing them of prioritizing political expediency over human rights. Robinson framed the situation as a failure of the West to support freedom, particularly the rights of Iranian women and men who have been victimized by the regime. He argued that if there were millions of Iranians in the UK, the political narrative would be different. But instead, Robinson contends, Western politicians are more concerned with appeasing certain voting blocs, particularly Muslim communities who he claims are supportive of the Ayatollah's regime, than addressing the injustice faced by Iranian citizens. As the discussion shifted to foreign policy, Robinson pressed on the issue of Western involvement. He questioned the hesitation of both the US and the UK in confronting the Iranian regime. According to him, the Islamic Republic of Iran has become a destabilizing force, not only in the Middle East, but across the globe, funding terrorism worldwide. Robinson suggested that a strategic military strike on the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, would be beneficial not just for the Iranian people, but for Western civilization as well. In a final rallying cry, Robinson called for Western leaders, particularly former U.S. President Donald Trump, to take decisive action against the Islamic Republic. With Israel already carrying out airstrikes on Iranian positions, Robinson expressed his support for further actions to cripple the regime's power, thereby stabilizing the Middle East, and by extension, the West.
Well, I think obviously the key question on everyone's lips is, will Donald Trump intervene? Because he has shown a willingness to intervene in recent months and weeks, particularly on Christmas Day. I think has gone almost unnoticed, but he bombed Nigeria in Christmas Day in order to try and help alleviate pressure on Christians there. He, of course, had the Venezuela intervention. And it's fair to say that when it comes to Iran, he has shown willingness before. He bombed the nuclear facilities last summer. And another thing worth noting is that he met Netanyahu, the Israeli leader, in the betwixt Christmas and New Year period. And it's thought that Netanyahu briefed him on the situation in Iran. He actually, Truth Social, he did a social media post at that time saying, we are locked and loaded and ready to go into Iran. Over the weekend, he said, we have a couple of options which we were exploring to intervene militarily. So it will be very interesting in the next few days to see what America and Trump do, because they do have the ability, I think, to potentially take further strikes against the regime and topple it at this precarious moment for the Iranian regime. Whether they do or not is an interesting question.
Do you think we will see a change in regime now? Because we've seen protests before, haven't we? We saw large-scale protests back in 2022. Is this time different? And if we were to see a change in regime, is there any idea of what could follow?
Well, a really interesting part of this story is that it's very hard to tell. And an interesting thing about the internet age, actually, is without internet, and I saw Iranian protesters saying internet is as important as bread, because without internet it's very hard to get a clear sense of what's going on in Iran. We get snippets of videos. We have human rights groups reporting that there are hundreds dead, but we don't actually know. It could be many more. We don't actually know the dynamics of these protests. So I think, yes, of course, the Iranian regime people have been talking about the collapse of the Iranian regime for 2 or 3 decades. Mind you, 20 years ago, people were talking about the collapse of the Saudi regime, and look how strong that is now. So you never quite know. But what's certainly true is that this seems to be a real crunch point, because the Iranian economy has been so bad for so long. It's ripe for a toppling. Trump senses that, the Israelis sense that, and so now could be that moment.
And this